Sports Medicine will get you back in the game.
After a week ago Friday, over the weekend and even early in the last week, I had a large chunk of you contact me about, hey, can you get the head football coach on for Texas School for the Deaf? They just won a state championship, 63 years. And we reached out to Texas School for the Deaf, and we heard from Keena Miller, and eventually we're able to set up this segment today with their head football coach, John Moore, and also Kat Northup, who's an interpreter, who's a part of SicEm365 Radio. And Coach Moore, thank you very much. Katie, again, thank you very much for your time. And Coach Moore, we appreciate you. What, in your opinion, has this and the exposure and the attention for the football program meant to the school and deaf?
Well, hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the show. First of all, it's a great opportunity to be a part of this. I know that the exposure that we've received has been wonderful for the school itself. Also just for the deaf community throughout the entire nation. There are just a lot of students, a lot of deaf people, a lot of people in general who haven't heard of Schools for the Deaf and the sports programs that we have. So it's almost like a grand hello, we're here. And I think it's going to be the same for many other schools for the deaf in the nation.
When did you know this particular group was special and had the potential to win a state title?
Well, I've coached this group of boys since they were in 5th grade, and I've coached them through that entire time, 5th until now. And I think it was around when they were in 7th and 8th grade, they had an undefeated season. And I think it just showed their passion, their love of football. And I knew that somehow we were going to have great seasons with this group. And here it is. It came true.
What was it like? And I know the game wasn't one that came down to the wire, so that you had some breathing room. But what was it like when the clock hit 0 and you could, just feel like, hey, we did it. We reached the mountaintop. We're state champs.
I think that feeling was surreal. I can't really put it into words. It was at the beginning of the season, we had a possibility of having our season completely canceled. We made the last minute decision to go down to 6-man football, and it really tested our mental acuity, our skills, trying to change our game. We changed up how we handled, our weight room routines and our nutrition. Everything changed once we made this decision, and we faced different challenges. So I think at the very end of the game, when the clock ran out and we were state champs, it was overwhelmingly huge. It was a sense of relief. It was a sense of pride that we did what we worked so hard for and accomplished it.
We're talking to John Moore. He's with the Texas School for the Deaf. They won a state championship a week ago on Friday. And also Katie Northup is with us, the interpreter on SicEm365 Radio. So the first thing, the questions that a lot of people have, and including myself, is how do you communicate? What about the whistle? What about the snap? What about the sounds of the game? How is that, and how do you go about making sure that's on page and on target with everybody on the team?
Well, at the Texas School for the Deaf, we serve over 500 students. And we were established 163 years ago. And I think football has always been part of our school history. And in terms of communication access, which is, plays a major role in all of our lives, especially for our players, I think having a deaf coach like myself with our deaf players, we have easy communication. We're able to practice and learn that football game as best we can. And we always give the refs a heads up that, you may blow the whistle. Well, that's not going to work. Our players may continue to run down the field. We don't want them to throw a flag or penalize the team for any of that, because our boys play hard. And so we give them a heads up that if you blow the whistle and they don't stop, the best that they can do is just kind of wave them down. Our boys have great peripheral vision, so they'll catch that movement and hopefully they'll stop down the field. Sometimes it works against us, sometimes it works for us. It just kind of depends on the refs that we have during the game.
You attended Gallaudet University, which I know has a great deal of history in football in general. They invented the huddle. What was Gallaudet's influence on you as a coach personally?
Oh, man, I think, you're right. That huddle was invented way back by Paul Hubbard, who was a quarterback back in 1892 at Gallaudet University. And, just to explain a little bit about that, the reason he did that was because previously they would all stand in a line with the quarterback in front of them, and you could see the opposing team and how they explained the plays. And Paul didn't like that. So he asked his boys to huddle around them to keep it a secret. And I think for myself, just being part of Gallaudet, it really did influence how I coached. It influenced how I communicate with opposing teams, our hearing teams that we play against. And I started coaching, the different coaches at Gallaudet University just influenced me in how they guided me through my years there. And so I bring that to what I do now.
Coach, where did your football journey begin? How did you find the game of football in your life? Where did the love come from, and what made you decide to get into the game?
Well, so my father was a member of, I guess you would say, the Dirty 30 football team at Gallaudet University. And my mom really wanted me to stay out of trouble. So she just put me into sports, which was football, and I naturally just fell in love with it. It kept me busy, kept me playing and active, and I think I just grew up in that. And because of that, I knew I wanted to coach. I loved the game in itself, and I grew up playing the game in different organizations, Maryland School for the Deaf. I didn't play college football. Unfortunately, I played college baseball, but I did coach at a deaf school called Model Secondary School for the Deaf, which is close to Gallaudet. And then started my coaching career there, moved to TSD, and have been coaching ever since.
Coach Moore, what was it like when Craig mentioned it earlier, it was a blowout win, but what was it like, you think, for your community to win that game, not just for the attention, but just the achievement of being able to say, we did it?
I think it's very meaningful. It's a huge impact. In our school's history of 163 years, we've never won a state title. And I think just the team itself, I think it was 64 years ago, went into the state game, but then we didn't win the title. We got second. And so getting into the state game again just brought those hopes up, and then winning the championship, it's just such an achievement, a milestone. Another thing is that Veritas beat us in week 1 by quite a few points. And so this rematch, we came into it a little bit nervous and excited for it, but we had a lot of preparation. We had some good game plans, and our boys just followed things to the T, and they brought their A game, and they delivered that state championship. But I also want to share with all of you out there that just because we won this state championship, we were not the first deaf school to win a state championship. I think in six-man football, we're maybe the third or fourth in the long history of deaf schools playing football. But in terms of the deaf community, I think it just shows to the world that we can. We put our heart and soul into it, and we can accomplish it just like anybody else.
John Moore is the head football coach at Texas School for the Deaf. They won the state championship. Katie Northup is the interpreter here on SicEm365 Radio. Does he recall the name of Kenny Walker? He's from Denver, Colorado. He ended up playing at the University of Nebraska and played in the NFL. And what does a story like that do for the deaf community?
I do remember Kenny Walker. Yeah, he's a big guy. You know, and he's not the first deaf football player in the NFL. There are several out there. But, you know, he's the kind of player that we hope our boys strive to be and strive to jump ahead of. You know, he keeps trying. He works hard. He's a good role model. And I think that he's the one that helps us develop those goals, knowing that we can get there. So I know that our boys, our players are inspired by him as well as the deaf community.
Has Coach Moore ever had someone go on to play himself who he's coached at the college level?
Yes, a lot of our boys actually end up going to Gallaudet University, and they're a Division III university, which is an all-deaf team, all-deaf school. So they're very competitive up there.
Merry Christmas. We appreciate you. Katie, we appreciate you. Paul, anything else?
No, this has been fun.
I tell you what, we love this. And I guess there's one more question. I asked my brother, my oldest brother, speaks sign language as well. Is there a difficulty initially for someone from the deaf community to learn sign language? Or is it just like we would learn the English language?
Man, that's kind of a tough question to answer. You know, ASL is a language all on its own. I think if you're raised in a language, you learn it as naturally as you are. If you are not, then there's going to be some struggles once you do start learning that language. You know, it's similar to when you learn a second language. But, you know, I encourage everyone to learn ASL. It's a fantastic language that is applicable in any situation.
If you don't mind, Katie, saying this to Coach Moore as well, I'm telling you right now, when we mentioned he was on the show today and that you were going to be with us as well, the feedback exploded to like people could not wait to tell others in the community about our segment today. Would you please let him know, tell him that how much we love of that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for your time. I've really appreciated that. And I am just in awe of the community support that we've received, not only locally, but just nationally. Thank you all for your support and the love that you've shown us.
Thank you. John Moore, head coach at Texas School for the Deaf, the Rangers. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Same to you, fellas. Merry Christmas.
Katie Northup is our interpreter. Also, John Moore from Texas School for the Deaf, football team that won a state championship. They first time, 163 years, and they got to celebrate that, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. This is SicEm365 Radio.